a pro, you have to be willing to dip your toe into something a little deeper. Something that embraces a lot of the Japanese tropes that maybe some people are turned off by. And we'll get into that a little bit as we talk about our first pick because we both agree on it for different reasons, I'm sure. But I just wanted to come up with a list that I thought like, all right, you're committed to the medium. These are some things that you have to watch, but still aren't necessarily out there as people saying, "Oh, 100%, this is something you got to get into." So I kind of went with it with that in mind.
Yeah, like we could have just listed the most abstract, weird, wild, like indie works from the 1970s that no one's ever heard of to just be the most hipster anime fan ever. This is a bit more um, all encompassing, but I guess we should
Hmm.
start with our first one, which we both agreed is a pretty good, I think, example of the show we're looking for on this list, and that is the Monogatari series. Whether it is the excessive and moderately fast dialogue full of Japanese heavy linguistic puns, the blazing fast screen transitions that give you whiplash, the heavy underage ecchi elements that are prevalent throughout the series, the references throughout to other anime or Japanese media, the nearly 100 episodes across different time periods and narrators told achronologically, and most of it is not even like on Crunchyroll legally, so like some of it you can find but some of it you can't. Like the only thing about Monogatari that I would say is beginner friendly is that sometimes noobs are too dumb to ask the question where to start, because even people who have been in the anime game for a while are like, do I watch Kizu Monogatari? Do I watch Bake Monogatari? Do I watch the stuff that's like chronologically first in the series? Do I watch this? And of course, that list, because they're still making more, is always still changing and moving around. So it's such a shell game of everything that makes anime tough to get into is wrapped in this nice little bow, which is actually surprisingly popular. Like, if you watch this, you have people to talk about it with, but I think this is a tough beginner anime.
I would say it's incredibly tough just because of the toothbrush scene. You try and turn somebody that's your first exposure to anime, they're gonna be like,
That's,
"What
yeah,
did you just make me
it's
watch?"
very bracing. Yeah.
But I think one of the things that really appeals about that series is it really kind of falls into monster of the week, right? And it's a formula that's been used time immemorial successfully. But what Monogatari really does very well, in my opinion, is that the monster of the week tends to lean heavily into Japanese folklore outside of vampires. And it's very interesting. And like you said, the way that they do the flashing of the different like words and jokes and puns, I don't know about you, but when I went through Bakemonogatari the first time, I was pausing constantly, rewinding constantly, and I liked the challenge of going back and reading it and then trying to figure out like, okay, so what are they referencing? Why did they do it this way? And it actually made the show more interesting for me. But that's what also makes it pro level. You got to be willing to invest time and probably do some rewinding and rewatching.
Yeah, this is a show best served by rewatching. And you brought up Monster of the Week. This isn't Monster of the Week, it's Monster of the Week, but to defeat the monster, it takes multiple episodes, and it's mostly talking, so it's boring to a lot of folks. And those monsters, they turn out to just be part of your harem. So, like, you have to wrap a lot of stuff into a big bite and digest it. And it doesn't go down smoothly for a lot of folks, especially those new to the game. So, you got to earn your stripes with Monogatari. Now, of course, people can begin with it, but I don't think that yields the best results. So, what do you got next on your list?
Right. So for me, I chose one of my favorite I consider it to be adventure romance, and that's Snow White with the red hair. Um, it's from a well-established manga. You have a very strong female protagonist who knows what she wants. She's an herbalist. She gets roped in to kingdom politics and of course the royalty where she ends up just can't help falling for her. It is a very sweet very easy to digest anime with a very solid love story that doesn't at all feel creepy. There's no etchy. It's just, hey, there's this really, really smart woman who is very passionate about being an herbalist. And oh, by the way, the head of this kingdom is absolutely in love with her. And, for people that are looking for good romance, it's probably not one of the first ones you would recommend to say, "Hey, Snow White with the red hair." But I also love her voice actress. It's the same voice actress that does Yor, that does let's see, she's done just so many. She's in Demon Slayer, the butterfly Hashira.
Hmm.
She's just done so many characters, and she is also the voice for the main character in Snow White with the red hair. So, have you seen Snow White with the red hair,
I've
Mason?
seen the
It's
first
got two
season. I've
seasons.
only seen the first season. I guess I'm wondering why this couldn't be a beginner anime.
I guess it could be, but I just think because it doesn't carry a lot of the name recognition that
Hmm.
or is like super popular, that maybe I guess maybe you could, but I think you're still a pro if because you're clearly dipping your toe all over the romance genre getting into
Yeah,
this
I
one.
guess the only reason I could consider it a pro one is that it's actually one of the better romances. So if you watch this first, you're going to be disappointed by all the stuff that comes
Yeah, it's
after
going to
it.
set you up for failure if that's
Yeah,
what you
like it's
digest
too
first.
good. I don't know if I would agree. It's like you could recommend this to just about anyone coming into anime, and they would get it. They would enjoy it. I think it's not too like caught in the tropes and trappings of the romance fantasy thing. So I guess I disagree with you, but it is a good show that I would recommend to folks. So
That's fair.
that's
That's
fair.
fair.
The number two on my list, and this is not in any set order, but it has to be Gintama. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a shonen with a lot of episodes." Like that's how most people get into anime with stuff like Dragon Ball or Naruto and stuff like that. But that's like saying that a middle schooler should read a textbook on quantum physics because it's like there are other books they read. It's got some math in it. It's pages with words. Like no, like you can watch Gintama, but the constant references to Japanese culture, history, and the medium of anime itself, like, is best appreciated by folks who have watched other shows that get all the gags. And even as someone who studied Japanese and has watched way too many anime in my life, there's still so many hidden references and stuff that if not for translator notes being like this is a callback to 1964's original like manga version of Dororo, which had a different art, like it is so deep and constant and like so much integrally part of what Gintama does well in its referential meta humor without just leaning on that as its only source of comedy, that I feel like you gotta watch other stuff to appreciate what Gintama does and most importantly what it does differently from all that stuff to set it apart. And you gotta build up that reservoir of anime knowledge to better appreciate what it's putting out there. So that's my number two pick. Have you seen Gintama?
I have not. I'm currently in Dressrosa in One Piece,
Okay, you,
so
you got your
I'm in
own
the
shonen thing going
600s.
on.
I've got my plate very filled right now. But what I do know about Gintama, obviously, you're not into anime. You had to have heard about Gintama, but I've heard it constantly referred to as the smartest shonen that's out there. Do
It's
you
the
agree with that
smartest
assessment?
shonen with the stupidest characters. You know, it's such a juxtaposition. And even then, so many times you'll hear people start Gintama and be like, "Well, remember, skip the first two because it's pretty much only for manga readers." And even then, it doesn't get good until like the mid 40s, and you're like, "I have to watch 40 episodes of a show before it even like begins to be good." And it's like, no, but kind of like it's a great show, but it demands respect and patience, and it is full of the most, probably the hardest I've ever laughed in any anime ever, mixed with being hundreds of episodes, and like they don't always hit, but it's a wild ride. It's a good time, and stick with One Piece for now, but maybe one day you'll get to it.
I got you. I'm gonna change one of my entries. So I'm still keeping my number three on the list, but I'm going to delete a very well known one and put my Deep in the Woods comedy. And
Ooh,
I'm going to talk to you about Lovely Complex. Because you said
yeah.
this was the anime that made you. So Gintama's the anime that made you laugh the most. That's Lovely Complex for me. And Lovely Complex has a lot of the Japanese humor, the way that they do the jokes and everything. It's very, very, very Japanese. They make a lot of references to other shows and mangas, and of course, it is another romance, a rom com, but it definitely touches on a lot of elements of Japanese culture that it's one season. I think it's 24, 26 episodes, but you definitely have to have your anime legs established to get some of the jokes and to be able to appreciate the way that they deliver some of the humor and the things that happen. Have you seen Lovely Complex, Mason?
I have. It's 24 episodes. I gave it a 5 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good. I liked the fashion, I liked some parts of it. The romance wasn't quite my thing, but I'm not a sucker for the rom-coms like you are.
Mm.
So I thought it was fine. Definitely if you had to go with like the hardest professional level comedy for me, it might have to be Joshi Raku, which is just four girls sitting around a table just rapid firing like jokes about like the industry of anime and just all this stuff. It's very Japanese, and that one I think is spectacular, but also high bar to entry. But I think what's fitting is that in our Twitch chat, put up or pull out, a very funny name, asks, "Would you consider the Fate series to be noob friendly?" And I see that you have some Fate on your list. So, what is your
I
opinion on the matter?
sure do. So the Fate series, I feel, mirrors the Monogatari family a lot in that many different there's different stories from different universes, and you could argue all day of where someone should start with Fate. Should it be Fate Stay Night? Should it be Unlimited Blade Works? Should you even go further back?
Do you need to play
You
the
know,
games to actually even get the messages? Do you watch the
I
the volleyball spin-offs or cooking spin-offs?
they have so much content. They even have what is it, Carnival, which is just a big gag joke about the franchise in general, but it's also hilarious if you're into the franchise. So I would say though, a very good place to start would be Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. Now, the reason why I put that as a pro level is that you're already putting yourself into the Fate world. So you know you're going to have a lot of historical figures that have been gender swapped. You have the whole servant master relationship, which, it's not in the creepy subservient way like you think it is. It's everybody's fighting in a holy
Well,
grail
sometimes
war,
it is.
and sometimes it is, but not
No,
the main
it's
crux of it
yeah.
is they're trying to win the Holy Grail War. Unlimited Blade Works is the Rin route. So anybody who's Tosaka Rin, that's her route. And it's also animated beautifully. The fight scenes are top tier, but again, I think you have to be pro level because you know what you're getting into. In that all these historical figures are gender swapped, or why is King Arthur in Japan? There's a lot to it that I don't think on the initial would just grab anybody, but the Fate franchise as a whole, I still play Fate Grand Order. I've been playing it for 6 or 7 years now. I've watched every single Fate show that you could possibly imagine. But it is not for the faint of heart because, again, you're going in differentiated universes, different timelines. There's a lot that goes into it. So it's a big bite to take off.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you could argue that maybe watching one Fate series might be like a mid-level one. Like you don't need a ton of background to get into it, but to actually experience all of Fate, like that requires a whole lot of strings to manage. What like it's not something you accidentally do casually. You don't just pull up Netflix and do all of Fate correctly. Like it requires an investment and keeping track of a lot of things, and definitely difficult.
Yeah, you got to go in with the intent of getting into Fate for
Yeah.
sure.